Blessed to have today Michael Sekerak, who's graduated from IIT with a degree in mechanical engineering in 1999. This past spring, we were able to honor Michael with the Outstanding Alumnus Award. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of his background. He's got a slide at the end of his presentation that will go in more depth of his bio. After graduating here, he went on to Caltech, and while at Caltech, he enlisted in the Army to serve in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He became a commander of his platoon, where he commanded 29 soldiers, and then was an executive officer and was second in command of B Troop 1-1 Cavalry, 1st Armored Division with 130 soldiers. He continued to serve in various military roles after returning to the U.S. while completing his graduate work and his PhD. Remains a development engineer with the Air Force Reserves. Has contributed greatly to the field of spacecraft, electrical propulsion, and plasma diagnostics. His advances have been adopted by NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in the U.S. Air Force. He has served as a researcher at the University of Michigan, Plasma Dynamic and Electric Propulsion Laboratory, the NASA's JPL, Caltech, and has a missile and satellite system engineer at Sandy Labs. So Michael, I know I missed all of your graduate school accomplishments there, but I wanted to give them a sense of a little bit of your other background, and I'll let you take over as our presenter.
Okay, thank you very much, Jamie. Do appreciate the introduction. One minor correction that I was Army ROTC as an undergraduate there at IIT, and then I got activated as an active duty officer from Caltech. The purpose of this presentation is graduate education, is it right for me? This is coming from somebody who has attended 3 different colleges over the course of my circuitous graduate education. So quickly, agenda, introduction and a disclaimer, just so you know exactly what the context that I'm presenting all this in and the perspective that I am providing here, which is not a holistic perspective on graduate education. It's just more of a science engineering bent to it. Or the general path, formal location, the benefits, as well as we're going to talk about Master of Science, Doctor of Philosophy, and an MBA, how to pay for grad school, and some of the pros and cons of returning mid-career, which I had the fortune of doing. So, purpose of the webinar, I want to familiarize people who have completed. I'm on slide 3 now. The purpose of the webinar is to familiarize people who completed their undergrad degree or are about to complete it and are considering going on for graduate education in some sort of a science or engineering field. And my disclaimers here on slide 4 is I assume that anyone listening doesn't have any graduate experience or is minimal so. I'm, again, presenting this from the perspective of engineering and science education, and if you're looking for a law degree, medical degree, or something within the arts or social services or education, or the actual education field, like teachers, this advice may not apply. And having worked now, closing in on 20 years within the aerospace and military fields, I have a good feel for what the science engineering workforce, including government service, private industry, and academia, what they're looking for, and that's what we'll be tailoring this advice and guidance to. Timelines are full-time study, not going to address online degrees, and bottom line, I'll touch on this a little at the end, but yes, I have 5 degrees from 3 different universities over 19 years. Was going to be a straight-through student, got pulled out by the Army, returned to my PhD program after I was already married and had a kid in 2009 to complete my PhD. So I know what it's like to be mostly a straight-through student. I also know what it's like to go back because of the interruption of my graduate education by the U.S. Army. So let's quickly talk about the path of formal education, and this will help. This will start to set the framework for why you'd even want to consider going back for graduate education. Going back to formal schooling typically begins around 6 years old with kindergarten. I have a kindergartner right now. And you learn, and when you start school, you basically know nothing about everything. And over the course of 12 years of schooling in kindergarten through the end of high school, you have a tremendous amount of breadth, but very, very little depth through the first portions of your formal schooling that you receive throughout your life. Then you proceed on to undergraduate education, which is, again, we're presuming most of the audience is or has recently completed, and that's when you actually start to begin specialization. And I show here on the right side of slide 5 here is the narrowing of your education, where you're narrowing the breadth and you're increasing your depth. First couple of years of undergrad are your typical core classes, and the last couple of years you actually focus on your specialty. And then when you graduate, you have a major, in my case, mechanical engineering, any other technical discipline for the listeners here. And then as a generalized college education with your specialty in one particular area. Then if you want to, and then at that point you can easily go out and work in the workforce. But if you're considering graduate education, what are the reasons that you would want to consider continuing on for more schooling? We'll talk about how the Masters of Science, you start narrowing your education even more, focusing on your one particular specialty. It's basically an extension of your undergraduate classes. Like the last couple of years of your undergraduate education, you basically take that to a new level with classes and technical rigor with your master's degree. And PhD allows you to narrow it down even more, where you actually become an actual recognized expert in one small particular area. And the way I heard someone explain to me, going through from when you start school in kindergarten all the way down to your PhD, in that if you want to take it to an asymptotic limit, when you're a kindergartner, you know nothing about everything, and you narrow it down through your doctorate to where you know everything about nothing, because you've become so specialized in such a narrow area, which may be right for some people, may not be right for some people. And I talk about this narrowing of breadth I couch it as formal education here, because you're always learning throughout your life. You never should stop learning. I'm just talking about the actual formal schooling portion of learning. So what will be the benefits of attending grad school is higher levels of technical responsibility, especially Masters of Science and PhDs. Higher levels of management, and it's more focused for the MBA route. Typically, you will get a higher starting salary the more degrees you have. That is one of the factors that all companies, as well as government employers, they factor that into their usually human resources departments typically have relations and other metrics that they use to gauge your salary, and the more education you have, the higher salary you'll get. It can easily be a metric for promotion to higher levels of technical responsibility or just positions within a company or an organization. For certain positions, you need that graduate education just as an entrance criteria. For if you want to go into academia, become a professor, you obviously have to have a PhD. For certain highly technical fields, particularly aerospace, if you don't have a master's, then you're typically not considered for engineering positions. I saw that at Sandia National Labs. You'd have a master's as just the entry point. But the purpose of graduate education is not for diplomas in the walls or letters by your name. It is because you're trying to increase your skill set. You're trying to gather more professional tools for you to use throughout your professional career. And I agree with the quote there on the right from Eric Folgate that a degree is worthless, but the education is actually priceless. So now breaking down a little bit more, for those who are in the audience considering going back for a graduate education,
Michael,
and the different flavors or the different degree options for graduate education.
I'm trying to figure out what happened. If you can give me a minute, I will try to click on you and see if that fixes it.
Okay, I just heard an unmute tone in here. Can you hear me now? Jamie, are you able to hear me? All right, Jamie, I keep hearing tones coming through the phone as if you're muting and unmuting. Are you able to hear me now?
Michael, I don't know if you can try to use your computer audios, because I cannot get you back as the speaker from the phone, or perhaps having you hang up and redial the phone number again since you were on the phone.
Okay.
Linda's saying she can hear both, so I'm not sure what I've done, but Michael, if you want to go ahead, I will mute myself and you can keep speaking.
Okay. Can someone send me a chat just to verify that you're actually able to hear me speaking right now?
Mute yourself.
Okay. Okay. So it seems like
We can hear you, Michael.
okay. I'm going to continue on here, and if there's any problems, I have the chat window open. Okay. Although there is some feedback or an echo. Okay. So going on with the Master of Science, the purpose of a Master of Science is advanced technical school and beyond the baccalaureate education in a specific technical discipline, and really can be considered an extension of the advanced classes you take right at the end of your undergraduate education. The capstone courses that you will typically take at the end of undergraduate education just consider it basically an extension of those types of classes. So the more in-depth rigor, more usually more technical, a lot more math going into the master's, but it is very much related to the last couple of years of undergrad. Typically takes 1 to 2 years beyond your Bachelor of Science. Who should consider attending it are technical professionals who need that additional technical expertise for their particular discipline, or want more leadership opportunities. Again, for many advanced technical companies, a master's is considered a bar for entrance, and it can be, especially nowadays, can be a very, very discriminating criteria if you don't have your master's degree. Typically, there's 2 options, the thesis or non-thesis options. This is very university dependent. Writing a thesis requires some classes, as well as some research or some sort of a large project in a final publication. Non-thesis options are just the classes. The thesis option usually carries more weight as you actually demonstrate some level of independent research. And as I say here, for some fields it's required for entry or promotion. In several places that I've been, a lot of the technicians will have an associate's or bachelor's, and the engineers actually have master's degrees. Advice that I've given to some of the undergrads that I mentored when I was back in my PhD at University of Michigan was to definitely try to seek out the master's so you don't get discriminated later in your career for not having that. Okay, now moving on. Okay, moving on to the PhD. Hold on. It should be on slide 8 right now. So the PhD, the Doctor of Philosophy, you have advanced school and beyond the Master of Science, and you also develop independent and original research. This one truly is a step beyond, a very large step beyond the master's degree in terms of what you're expected to be able to do, the skill set you acquire through the PhD process. Typically takes 4 to 6 years beyond Bachelor of Science or Master's. If you go in straight out of your bachelor's degree, you'll typically get a master's along the way. You'll get credit for the coursework you do for a PhD, and you usually will get a master's degree anyway from the coursework, and the PhD is a couple years of research beyond, typically 1 to 2 years of classes of your PhD, and then 3 to 4 or more years of actual research. So who should attend? People who want to become a recognized expert in a specific technical area and conduct research or lead advanced development activities. Also, anyone who wants to enter academia needs to have a PhD as entrance criteria. But you become a recognized expert in an area. You actually develop your own research in a very small particular area. You do conference presentations, conference papers, journal publications. You write a 100, 300-page dissertation on your very specific area. And by the time you graduate with your PhD, by you go through your defense, which is the peer review of your research, you are able to actually conduct independent research and assessments on your own. The advice I give to people on choosing a PhD program, if you feel that it's right for you, is that your advisor is absolutely critical. You should choose a program based on your advisor and the strength of the research in your area. Don't choose it based on a school name. The advisor in your field carries a lot more weight than the actual school does. And unlike working at a company or even my military experience, your commander or your boss has a lot of say over your life. Your advisor truly has the most say over your life when you're in a PhD program. They can be a central dictator of how you operate in graduate school, and so the relationship with your advisor is really important. And I say you choose that well, it can be a great experience. I had a fantastic experience at University of Michigan because I chose that. I had choices of University of Michigan or Princeton for my PhD, and I was and I chose based on the advisor at Michigan and was extremely happy with my selection there. Okay, Master of Business Administration. Whereas the PhD program is for extraordinary depth in a very narrow field, an MBA is a very different beast, where you have advanced schooling for the business skills such as accounting, finance, and management for how to manage programs, manage people, manage companies, etc. Typically 1 or 2 years beyond Bachelor of Science or Master's, and you also typically have to have work experience prior to starting. So you're generally not going to find people in business school who just graduated with their bachelor's degree. They want you to have some work experience before you go for an MBA, because the MBA is really meant for people who are trying to climb the corporate ladder. We want to focus on management and aspire to corporate leadership and management type positions. The MBA and going to business school or B school, a lot of people call it, is excellent for for building a professional network. And like I said, for higher level management positions, some companies it is required. Typically is a very generalized curriculum, however, so if you do want to focus in a very narrow area or of research, or if you're more academically minded, that may not be right for you. And in this one, a little bit different from the PhD program, is that the recognition of the school is quite important, as the degree strength does vary amongst the different schools. Okay, and how do you pay for graduate school? There are several different ways to pay for graduate school, and I do want to re-emphasize that I'm couching all this from the science and engineering perspective. So again, law degrees, medical degrees, arts and humanities and whatnot do not fall under the same guidance I'm giving you. Again, having been through the graduate school application process twice, the fellowship application process twice, because of my fairly unique professional timeline, it didn't change in between the 10 years that I did it. Or was relatively the same between the 10 years that I did it. So for science and engineering graduate education, especially if you're doing research for a master's, or if you are doing a PhD, which you have to do research as part of it, you are performing a service for the university, and you're producing products for the university. The service is doing the research, and those products are producing publications or inventions that help the university. Therefore, you are doing a service for the university, so they, or more appropriately, your advisor actually is going to compensate you for that service. Means you get a monthly stipend. You should get your tuition. You should get your tuition paid for. You should get all fees paid for. And you don't get a lot of money, but you actually, for engineering science, you typically get paid to go back for graduate school. The top research universities compete for the best graduate students. In modern age, graduate students present most of their own research at conferences. They write their own journal articles. Many decades ago, my father-in-law is an old man with a PhD, and he talks about how students write the papers, but the advisor would put their name first on the papers. Nowadays, the students write the papers, and students get credit for it. So that's why universities are competing for the top students. The students do get recognized for their work. So how do you pay for the different degrees? Masters of Science, you can pay for it yourself and take out loans. It is off. You can get employers to pay for it. That is very common. I've seen that several places. Especially even Sandia had a program where if you came with your bachelor's, they would send you for your master's degree. Universities will give out fellowships for master's degree. Not quite as common if you're just doing just the classwork master's degree, but it is fairly common if you're actually doing some sort of research for a thesis-based master's. And there are some external fellowships that will pay for a master's degree as well. For a PhD, top research universities, if you get admitted for your PhD program, you should have funding. If you're going for a PhD in science and engineering, there is no reason that you should pay for it, as long as you can get in, which is very competitive to get in. Typical stipend, if you're getting paid by the university directly, is 20 to 30,000. If you win one of the external fellowships, you can make 25, all the way up to some of them are up to 40,000 per year for your actual stipend. And that is what you get as actual money to live off of, whereas still your tuition fees are automatically paid for. So for myself, returning to graduate school, I got the NSTRF, which is the NASA Space Technology Research Fellowship, that paid me $36,000 per year as my stipend, and my wife was working as well, but that actually allowed us to have some income while I was actually finishing my PhD at the University of Michigan. So again, that is very common for PhDs, and so you should not be paying for a PhD in science or engineering. Again, law and medical degrees are very, very different. For MBAs, they're self-funded or paid for by your employer, and there are some limited scholarships for MBAs as well. And if you are in the military, then the post 9/11 GI Bill will pay for any of these degrees if you qualify for the GI Bill, which is post 9/11 GI Bill is an excellent service for veterans. So what are the pros and cons of returning mid-career? It is common for professionals to start begin or return to grad school after gaining some work experience, and there are a lot of pros to doing that. And I found, again, so I started my graduate work straight through, then was pulled out by the Army and then returned to offer my own personal experiences for these pros and cons. When you're returning, you're definitely more motivated than a typical straight-through student. By straight through, I mean straight from bachelor's, straight out of the PhD. And the real-life experience, they give you the context for the research. You know a lot more about why you're doing the research. You're not doing it just because your advisor says so. You know what the impact it'll have in the grander scheme of things. You have much better time management skills, and you're much more organized and efficient. And that was most certainly true, I know, from my case. I was doing homework, balancing all the homework and projects and stuff that you had to do. And you can actually do mentoring for younger students, which I did quite a bit of when I returned from my PhD. But there are cons. The grad student stipend, yes, you get paid to go back for grad school, especially if you go back for a PhD where you're out for, you can be out for up to 6 years. You know, that's, even though you are making money from the university, you're making a lot less than what you make as a regular career salary. So a very important question to ask yourself is, will your increased salary over the entire aggregate of your career will make up for the lost wages from graduate school? If you spend 6 years for your PhD and you have to take a $50,000 pay cut to go back for graduate school, that's $300,000 of lost wages. Will you make that up later in your career? It's a very important question to ask. For a master's degree, especially if you only finish in 1 year, the answer is almost certainly yes. For a PhD, that definitely requires closer evaluation. And your peers are going to continue to be promoted, and they'll be moving along their career tracks. Presumably, once you get out, you'll be able to leapfrog them, or maybe you'll even have a different career path. And there's only so much professional time that we get to work in our lifetime, and a lot of people aren't willing to take away from their short term of their career for what could be the long-term gains of graduate school. So definitely some pros and cons of returning mid-career. So in summary, your formal education begins a lot of breadth and little depth, and the more you continue on your career, especially the graduate school, you can get extreme depth in a narrow field. This is for applying for the master's and PhD, not necessarily the MBA. And again, going back to nothing about everything to everything about nothing once you finish a PhD. Benefits include, definitely, it can be an entrance, a bar for entrance in certain fields. You make more money, and you can get increased promotion. Again, master's is typically 1 to 2 years. Doctorate is typically 4 to 6 years. Again, funding is very common for doctorates if you can get accepted. Again, that's why they're so competitive. Please, if you do that, make sure you focus on the advisor, not necessarily the school. MBA is typically a work experience post bachelor's, 1 to 2 years. It takes 1 to 2 years to complete, but it's important to have that work experience before you go, not only because it's typically an entrance criteria for business school, but also you know a lot more about why you're there and what you're trying to get out of it. There are a lot of different funding options, and there are definitely some things to consider if you go back as a mid-career graduate student. Okay. And just quickly to discuss my time, I said I would get to IIT, proud IIT alum from 1999, where I did my BS Mechanical Engineering. Was a member of the ROTC program there, which led to my interruption of graduate school the first time around, because I went straight from IIT to Caltech. Finished a master's, was going towards a PhD, and got that interrupted in 2001 when the Army pulled me out because of my ROTC scholarship at IIT. I finished the Caltech and MIT and a few others have a degree called an engineer's degree, which is between a master's and PhD. I didn't cover that in this presentation because they're very uncommon, but it's basically just a master's degree with a thesis. They just called it something different. And then in 2010, I returned to University of Michigan to finish my PhD. I got a master's in nuclear engineering and my doctorate in aerospace engineering, and I got the nuclear engineering master's en route to the aerospace engineering PhD. Okay. At this time, I'm happy to open up to any questions that anyone may have.
Do we have any questions for our presenter? I'm also keeping an eye on the chat. I saw where, Michael, you put that out there as, so if anyone is just in chat enabled, if you want to type in your question, we can take that as well. Well, I'm not seeing or hearing questions come through, so we will take that as a sign that, let me just double check audio controls that everyone is enabled here real quick. Since we've not seen one or heard any questions, I'd like to thank our speaker today. For those of you who participated, thank you as well. This is a part of a series of career and professional development programs that the IIT Alumni Association is organizing along with the Career Management Services here at the university. The Career Services Office is available to all of you as alumni. Charlene Williams, who works both in the Alumni Relations Office and in Career Services, is here with us today. I'm going to ask Charlene to talk a little bit about the services that they provide to alumni. So Charlene?
Hi everyone. So I just want to let you guys know that there are a number of services available to you through Career Services. Our services are available to you for life. So no matter when you were actually graduated, you are more than welcome to come back 20, 30 years out, even 1 year after graduation. So we can definitely assist you with actually helping you with resume critiques. If you've actually been out of the industry for a while and would love to actually have some practice with interviews, we can set up mock interviews for you as well. If you're looking to bring your organization back to the university to recruit more IIT students and alumni, we can help you with creating a resume book for that. We can also talk to you about upcoming career fairs and events that might be able to help get your brand for your organization on campus. Otherwise, if you're just looking to come back and volunteer as an alum and want to give back to students, there are a number of options available to you. We would love for you to come back and assist us with mock interviews for students within your industry or your major field of interest. We would welcome you to assist us with resume critiques or anything that might be able to assist them in getting ready for their careers once they graduate. Does anyone have any questions?
Charlene, what is the date of the next career fair?
The next career fair is scheduled for February 4th of 2016. It is open to all majors. So alumni who are looking for opportunities are more than welcome to attend, as well as if you'd like to bring your organization back to recruit.
In addition to employers, there are a large number of grad schools, including IIT, who are represented at the career fair, and would encourage you, as those who might have an interest in programs, to at least stop by and check out the groups who are interested in our students and young alums. With that, again, thank you to our presenter. If we don't have any other questions, we're going to go ahead and sign off from the webinar today. So again, thank you all very much.
Have a good day.